want to be sleeping at this hour for. What a waste of time, eh? Fryupdale in the early 90s, 80s and 90s, and on, and has been a key subject for me. It was certainly vital in the stages of my master's degree, and fundamental to focusing my practice. It was during the time I was doing that I got that sense of conceptualism returning to my work through what I did in Fryupdale. I'd just become familiar with Schoenberg's Verklärte Nacht, Enchanted Night, about this couple walking through a forest at the dead of night, unravelling their own problems and finding some bond of unity as they walked. And it was the journey through the night side of things, the walk that excited me, because it corresponded with something I'd heard in Mahler, where there was this almost night-like figure walking his horse through a forest with the armour shining, glinting in the moonlight. I mean, this is my imagination at work here. And this was in a piece called, let me see, Song of the Earth, that's right. No, Song of the Night. And then, of course, Fryupdale, I thought, right, why don't I do a dusk to dawn night walk with my paintings? And that, of course, is what I did for my master's degree. And I turned it into a maze, so people had to walk from one painting to another. And they could only see one painting at a time. So they walked maybe as much as 50 yards into the studio space toward the first painting, which was 6 foot by 8. And then as they got nearer to it, they would glance to their right and see down another corridor another painting and walk to that. And that's how you progressed. Finally, to Dawn, which was a 10-foot canvas in a vast space. I had an enormous amount of space to set this exhibition of 7 paintings. We wanted to look at a kind of progression, a kind of development, in a sense to explore some of the changes that we get in the landscape in this area as much as anything, and also at the same time cover some of the key places that have fueled my creative fervour over, the last sort of, well, I don't know, 10, 15 years almost, really. And each of the sites that we are using as part of the journey has distinct differences. See, that's what I'm after. Get on, look at that. We were up on the moortop looking over to Scaling, and there was that moment when I know it wasn't pre-dawn, but it was like pre-dawn, because soon after that the whole thing vibrated with colour and light. That was what we saw on that morning at 5 in the morning. That's what we saw. But I didn't know I was going to get there that way. I put all that brown on that painting and then washed it all off, but a residue remained, just enough to make it work. I didn't know it was going to work like that. I hoped it might, but I didn't know it would work. But I was alert enough, perceptive enough to know when it did. Fryupdale at dawn is quite spectacular. It's a little bit forbidding as well in many ways. It's the first time I've turned round and worked that way around. I've worked looking up Frivedale all the time. Frivedale was Giant's World. He's there and he tossed a big piece of light. It bowls down through the landscape there, and it just revealed that bowl-like shape. And there was just a touch of darkness this side of it, and just a horizon line above, behind that light, where there was even more light emerging over the top. It was really, and it was almost as though the light had got caught in mist or moisture in the atmosphere. This part relates very particularly to a return for me to woodlands, because an awful lot of my work over the years, these latter years, have been on hilltops, and I'm very well known for painting distances and dramas and atmospheres, and not so well known for the more intimate subjects of woodland. And it was actually there in Hunton Mulgrave where I made that return after many years, and we've gone to the very site where the return to woodland was embarked upon. I didn't know how I was going to be able to address that area, because despite the difficulties I've had over the years interpreting material and converting it into paintings without simply reducing it to a form of copying, despite those difficulties, I was very much aware of trees, leaves, ground, branches, and sky through them, very much conscious of that. I wanted to keep the material to a minimum. I wanted a genuine conversion from the figurative to what was essential in the painting to capture the light and drama and atmosphere of the place in a conceptual way. And I worked on prepared grounds where there was already colour on the surface, and I worked very broadly, and I really didn't paint a tree or a branch or a bit of ground or anything. I just put down colour and let them stand in for the things that I was seeing, because the area was absolutely drenched in sunlight, and it was thrilling from that perspective. I'm not suggesting for a minute that it didn't change, it did, but it was more like it was switched off and it switched on and switched off and switched on, rather than the clouds changing as it did in the other two situations. And that was really quite fascinating, because it meant that I would start working with these masses, and then the light went, and somebody switched it off, and you sort of put that down and picked up another one, and then it would come back on again, and then you'd quickly try to get these bits of blocks of light in as soon as you possibly could. In a sense, that had a more of an abstract feel to it, curiously enough, than the ones on the moortop. Because at this time of year, the trees do go into blocks of colour. Particularly as there's a heaviness that develops in the foliage and things like that. They become almost more uniform, except where you're getting the twinges and turns toward autumn. And of course, shafting through that are these blocks of light, which was really quite fascinating to try and capture. It's almost a more imaginative world, really, as well, in there. It evokes all sorts of enclosed senses of space and looking through and imagining. The sea, being the final end to the journey, is again not inappropriate, because it has been something that I've lived next to for a large part of my life. I lived for many years, for over 20 years, by the sea at Marsk, and my teenage years were spent at Whitby. I've not ever really been completely happy painting it. It hasn't really been the subject for my work until, say, the last 8 or 9 years. And in that time, I have sort of nudged my way to looking at it in relationship to the land, that is. And nearly always there's a good piece of land in the painting alongside the sea. Only very, very rarely have I painted the sea and the sky wholly without anything else there. So the land always helps me feel more comfortable with it when I'm dealing with it. And it's nearly always when the light is particularly interesting that I get stimulated enough to want to make some statement about it. From Kettleness Point, I'll be looking over toward Runswick Bay, and beyond that toward the Tees, and to the far right the land sweeps away towards Sunderland and completes what is quite a remarkably large bay, which is very, very deceptive, because a lot of us tend to regard stepping up the coast towards Sunderland as going north. In point of fact, it's going west, and due north. As we look out across the sea to due north, there is no landmass between us and the North Pole as we look out. And it's one of those curious things that even us as locals still find it difficult to accept, that when we look out to sea, we aren't looking over to Denmark or the Netherlands or even the French coast or anything like that. We're looking straight out at uninterrupted ocean, and it's quite a chilling thought at times. I would want this point that I'm at right now to be a springboard for things in the future. And I do know that the London galleries have been very excited by the things I'm doing right now. The main thing is I'm very excited by them. What's happening now is the important thing. It will create its own future. And I will just follow. Humbly, I hope, and see where it leads me. It's very exciting.